The Harmonic Convergence, Chapter 14, Lady of the Lake. "Land ahoy!" shouted Arnaud. On the distant horizon, just as Maxim had predicted, we sighted the rugged cliffs of the North Cornish coastline. We had cleared the fast-net rocks and the Isles of Scilly to our starboard side by 30 or 40 miles, and all cheered with a renewed sense of gratitude and relief. For many on board, it was their first deep ocean experience, and by now they had weathered all that the Atlantic Ocean could throw at them. Their calm and confident teamwork, as well as learning new navigational skills, had deepened their close bonds together as they traversed the seas and oceans. "Good seamanship, my fellow travellers," acknowledged Maxim. "We are almost there." Maxim set a northeasterly course that would take us further up the Cornish coast. "Although we have found the English Isles," he said, smiling with delight, "we must be alert for navigational hazards. These shores are renowned for unpredictable gales and storms, and we have not yet established which part of the North Cornish coastline we are presently transiting." We prepared beverages and refreshments and sat on the kiln cushions on the deck while Maxim was at the helm. "Ah," said Maxim, a huge grin across his face. "I can see the old tin mines. It was the Celts who mined the tin on these rugged cliffs." "Yes, I can see the mines too," said Imra. "This is the place of legends," exclaimed Maxim. "We are close to Avalon, the home of King Arthur and the Round Table, and of course, Merlin." "Merlin?" said Asteria, and reaching over, she took an apple from the fruit bowl. "Do you mean that Merlin is real?" "Of course," declared Maxim. He stared at the English coastline with melancholy in his eyes. "Merlin is real, and we are coming home," he said. "Ah, yes," said Dulcar. "This is where our adventure started, 10,500 years from this present moment." The ocean swell lapped along the jagged rocks in gentle caresses, showering the coastline with pearls of glistening water. In the distance, we could see stone steps cut into the cliffs, shining in the late afternoon sun and leading to large stone platforms and terraces. Several glorious ancient castles sat atop the terraces and were home for the many Druids who lived here. Over time, they had all marvelled at how the Atlantic Ocean disappeared into the distant horizon, an endless expanse of beauty that melted into the setting sun. This sojourn, as the sun made peace with nightfall, was a rhythmic dance where energies intertwined throughout the seasons and passing years. The coastline was inhabited by many indigenous groups of seals, their calls echoing around the rocks as though they were announcing our arrival. The North Atlantic provided an abundant supply of fish, and beneath the rocky shoreline there were deep forests of kelp. The kelp, measuring hundreds of feet in height, swayed in the current and provided an endless playground for the seals to explore. The kelp also provided nutrients for the people of the land. So, will we be meeting Merlin at our destination in Stonehenge? Asked Cyndriella excitedly. I am certain that we will, giggled Sophia. Who is Merlin? Inquired Arnaud. Sophia smiled, and looking up towards the castles, we could see a tear trickling down her cheek. Merlin is a druid, she said. He has very advanced Gnostic knowledge. Some people discredit Merlin and claim that he was not a druid, said Asteria. Merlin was definitely a druid, said Sophia. The Dark Ones, however, have tried to erase his powerful knowledge by claiming that he is a myth. And where did the Druids come from? Inquired Arnaud. After the destruction of Tiamat and the installation of the lunar matrix, began Dul-Kar-Ra, the high fifth density Lemurian Lyrian survivors emigrated to the highlands in Ireland and Scotland and parts of England and Wales. They became known as the Druids. Yes, and therefore we are Druids, aren't we? Exclaimed Shamar-Ra. Yes, I laughed. The Celtic Druids were pursued by the Dark Ones in Ireland and Scotland, and after escaping from there, they brought their knowledge to Egypt. They were the early Egyptians. Historically, said Sophia, even although in Earth's 21st century it states that Merlin and King Arthur came after the Romans, they actually lived around the time of the First Crusades. The problem with history, said Ariana, is that 300 years were added to the Gregorian calendar, making it impossible to calculate the time. In addition, said Ankai, the Dark Ones have either omitted or changed the dates of other historical events, further adding confusion around the sequential timing of those events. Well, why is Merlin so famous? Asked Minerva. Merlin was King Arthur's royal advisor and his friend, said Sophia. King Arthur did nothing without talking to Merlin first. Merlin is, however, somewhat of a mystery, as he pops in and out of many realities. Exactly, said Altar. The story of Merlin in Earth's 21st century is an augmented compilation of many events of the time. The Dark Ones have mixed people and events together that cannot be verified because we do not have the ancient recordings. Their interpretations are fiction literature that is probably modelled on people who match the Merlin and King Arthur profiles. Unfortunately, said Maxim, From the 19th to the 21st century, a new kind of literature was born, and this has distorted the truth. It was called novelist fiction, and it created a problem in the way that it portrayed the past. These authors relied on false history as reference points and embellished their stories with emotions and drama that was not true. The stories of Merlin and King Arthur could be included in this type of fiction. "But is it not true," inquired Shamar, "that there were many novels written before that period?" "Yes," agreed Maxim, "but not with the same modern structure. Romance fiction novels, detective or crime and mystery fiction, and in the 21st century, science fiction can all be included in the novelist fiction category. They were devised as a controlled genre of literature and, with few exceptions, were for the purpose of mind control." There were the sagas," interjected Altar. They were a prose narrative, a compilation of hyperbolic or extravagant exaggerations of real events, and therefore could not be relied upon. In the times of Merlin and King Arthur, there were no newspapers or anything of that nature. There was no mass media. "Well," said Shamar, "I heard that there are some legends, recorded over the centuries, by several authors that are real." "Ah, yes," exclaimed Imra. "You are referring to the bards, or storytellers, who worked hand in hand with the Druids." "I have not heard of the bards," said Asteria, her head inclined. "The bards are the ones who passed on information," said Imra. "Is it true that the Druids and bards did not know how to write, and that all wisdom and knowledge was passed on by word of mouth?" asked Asteria. "It is the Dark Ones who claim that the Druids and bards did not use writing, and therefore were primitive," said Sophia. "The Druids are the keepers of information and knowledge, and it was always written down." "Yes," said Imra. "And keep in mind, the bards were dedicated to keeping the story as is, without adding elements of exaggeration or fiction." Minerva frowned. "I remember," she said. "You said that the persecution against the Druids and bards began with Vespasian and his son Titus in Rome. It was around the time of the invention of Jesus Christ." "Actually, this destruction began before their campaign," I said. "The Dark Ones began annihilating the Celtic Druids in England, Ireland and Scotland, and from there they hunted them down in other areas of the Western world." Ankai nodded in agreement. "There has been a systematic destruction of the Druids and bards from around the year 50 BC until the appearance of the French Inquisition in the 11th century. "Indeed," said Naishara. "The French Inquisition was responsible for 11 centuries of progressive destruction against the Druids and the bards, and the destruction of the Celtic culture in general. The Romans campaign to destroy the Celts, Druids and bards, however, began with the burning of the library in Alexandria," said Maxim. "The Romans knew that there was a complete collection of Gnostic writings there, and they wanted to keep this information from the world. I remember talking about this when we were in Alexandria, said Shama-Ra. So, what exactly are the Dark Ones wanting to hide? Asked Arnaud. Firstly, said Sophia, the point on the planet where Western civilization was born is Ireland in Scotland, which predates pre-dynastic Egypt, Babylon, Sumer, and China. Vespasian and Titus were enforcing a world reset. Therefore, it was necessary to erase all information prior to the imposition of their new world paradigm. Yes, exclaimed Irama. So the Celtic Druid manuscripts and historical accounts connect the Celts, Druids, and Bards with the early Egyptian civilization, and actually recognizes them as the very basis of that civilization. This is something that the official historians vehemently deny. Well, after erasing all of the past, added Ariana, the Dark Ones could insist on the creationist story that they had written into the new Jewish Christian religion. This religion was based on the writings of the Old and New Testaments, and in this way, they could have total control over the people. All of the Gnostic writings were confiscated by the Vatican and taken to Rome, said Naishara. They held the original manuscripts in the Vatican Library, and the copies were burned. Sarah, who was swaying back and forth in one of the hammocks, got out of the hammock and sat with us also. The Library of Alexandria was also dangerous for the Dark Ones because it was physically located in the Middle East, in Egypt, she said. This is where they developed their stories about the Jewish people who left Egypt and followed Moses, spending 40 years in the desert, looking for the Promised Land. This was the beginning of their new religion. These deceptions and agendas, up to and including the 21st century, are all from the same perpetrators, Rome and the Dark Ones, said Dulkar-Ra. It is amazing that these agendas can be orchestrated over and over again, and people believe it, said Cyndriella. The information that we are sharing, I said, will not easily be found in 21st century Earth. This is due to the relentless disinformation and censorship at the hands of the Dark Ones. They have been trying to erase the truth for the best part of 2,000 years. The most efficient way for the Dark Ones to hide any truth is to claim that real information is disinformation, agreed Dulkar-Ra. In 21st century Earth, everything is fake news, and through technology and the internet, they can hide everything in plain sight. I am still feeling curious about the Druids, said Minerva. Earth's history has centered Druidic life around the male figure, although I am feeling that Druids are also females. There are just as many female Druids as there are males, I said. All of the Druids have very advanced knowledge, and this has been passed on to them by other Druids. Well, going back as far as Atlantis and beyond. That is correct, Samira, said Sophia. The written and verbal knowledge of the Druids and Bards contained information regarding medicine, herbalism, technology, and advanced concepts of metaphysics, and the connection between the material world and the spiritual world. Ariana reached over to take an apple from the fruit bowl. She polished the apple and, taking a knife, began to cut it into segments. "In a way," she said, her head inclined, "they could be compared to shamans, wise men, and healers in the Native American cultures. The Native American cultures shared the same kind of information from the same ancestral sources, including the Pleiades. And like the Navajo shamans," agreed Altar, "they could shapeshift or teleport themselves wherever they wanted to go." "The Druids know that there is no physical world," began Irama, "because everything is etheric and interconnected. In this way, they can evoke the entities and spirits in the spiritual world and work with them to heal a person. They advocate that all diseases," said Ariana, "and they mean all, are the result of an imbalance or interference between pure consciousness and the physical world." "So," said Shama Ra, "they work with one foot in the spiritual world and the other in the physical world, thereby creating a bridge between the two." "Well, they have a strong connection to nature," I said. "They do not separate nature from who they are and who we all are. They know how to use the properties of each plant, how to communicate with the spirits of the trees, and, well, how to speak with the entire forest. They know how to connect with other beings, including all of the elementals, and how to invoke their characteristics for help." Minerva inclined her head, a frown across her brow. "Aren't the Druids also known as witches and warlocks?" she said. "A colloquial interpretation might be that they are witches and warlocks who use magic," said Ankai. "However, they are trained in pure knowledge, and they know how to apply it." "Many people on Earth," said Sarah, "who do not know their true history, are conditioned to only believe in the physical world. Their physical existence, however, is not real. It is only that they have been programmed to believe that it is real. All physical existence is only an idea, and in the same way as a holographic environment that is created in the mind, it only exists as long as the idea. So our collective unconscious makes us think that we are in two worlds, the physical and the spiritual, when there is only one?" inquired Asteria. I know this is a little off topic, or perhaps not really off topic, but last night," said Cyndriella, "I had a strong sense of a non-physical being. She was existing in the ruins of the Cornish settlements on the coastline that we have just encountered, and I felt that her energy seemed low and confused." "Ah, so you were feeling her strong attachment to the material world," said Naishara. "These non-physical beings are attached to their ideas of what the material world is, and therefore do not transcend to the other higher planes." "Do you mean that they do not reincarnate onto other planets or return to source?" asked Arnaud. Yes, that is correct," replied Naishara. "They are the so-called lost souls, They are entities who are wandering between the etheric and the material world. I feel so sad to think that souls can be lost, said Cyndriella. These lost souls still hold on to an ego and the idea of I, explained Ariana, or the idea of feeling some body. So they still manifest a body that is perceptible to them and to the others among them who share the same frequency. They have separated from the human collective unconscious. However, they share a new collective unconscious on the etheric side. Rama nodded in agreement. In this case, the etheric world is nothing more than a transfer of the same agreements and belief systems that were framed by the collective unconscious in the physical world, she said. When they die, the disincarnated take their belief systems, perceptions, prejudices and expectations to the other side, to the etheric world. Once there, they create a crude and caricatured reflection of the same material world that was their perception when they were in the body in the physical world. That is to say, interjected Ankai, that the same material world, even the same streets and buildings, can be manifested with their minds while they are living in that non-physical side. However, as their minds, concepts and values are not very positive, this will also be reflected in the etheric world that they have created. They create a gloomy version of the physical reality that they perceived on the physical side of the living. Yes, agreed Irama. The entity can also form clans or gangs in that etheric reality. However, it is only a reflection of their own frequency. They do not know how to live or exist in any other way. This situation is a direct consequence of the disinformation that the Dark Ones have imposed upon Earth's third density population. Are they aware that they are in a non-physical world and that they have replicated it? Inquired Asteria. Well, it depends upon each individual spirit, explained Sarah. There are many who do not know where they are, and they stay in that realm that they have created because that is where they live. It is who they are, and that is what they choose to be. And there are others who have not realized that they are dead, perhaps because of the rapidness with which they died, or the characteristics surrounding their death. Do these souls in the astral often try to connect with this third density world? Inquired Arnaud. For those who know where they are, yes, and they do so by interfering with the material world, said Ariana. In this case, the people who are living allow themselves to be manipulated by these entities because they are a frequency match. Would you say that what happens in the physical world, day by day, said Cyndriella, is not only the result of the actions of the living and their collective unconscious, but it is also intertwined with the world of the dead on the non-physical side? Well, that is something to consider, mused Ariana. To complicate things further, said Maxim, both worlds, the etheric and the physical, also experience strong interference from the so-called extraterrestrials. All of these components mix together to make a huge soup of interference. "That is fascinating," exclaimed Minerva. She frowned. "And it also sounds complicated." "And to make it all even more complicated," said Altar, his index finger raised, "we can add to this the direct interference from other timelines that are not isolated from each other." "Wow," said Shamara. "It is amazing to think that we are in such a complex soup of many different levels of consciousness, and they are hidden or unknown by most humans." "The Druids have undertaken an immense task to hold this understanding with clarity," said Sophia. "I am still curious," blurted Arnaud. "Can you explain more about Stonehenge and the energy in the land there?" "Of course," exclaimed Sophia. "On the Earth's energy grid lines, where these grid lines intersect, the energy is amplified. These sites where the energy is amplified are known as power sites." "Oh, yes. Are the Earth's energy grid lines also called ley lines?" asked Shamara. "Yes," replied Sophia, "and at the intersection points, nodes are created. Nodes are where the power sites or strong energy grid lines intersect." "I see," said Arnaud, scratching his head. "And what exactly constitutes the nodes?" "Within these nodes," replied Maxim, "antimatter is created and held in suspension." "Antimatter?" said Minerva. "What is that?" "Antimatter is the dualistic frequency that is on the opposite side of the spectrum of balancing or ordinary matter," said Altar. "Antimatter can be thought of as matter with a reversed charge." Yes, for the ease of this explanation," interrupted Maxim, "we will call matter positive and antimatter negative. These two opposing charges work by cancelling each other out, or by creating harmonics that are both positive and negative. This is how the universe works." "Another way of putting it," said Irama, "is that everything is either a constructive or destructive frequency that can be manipulated to become a physical or non-physical manifestation." "Collectively," said Dulkara, "these constructive and destructive frequencies hold the matrix of manifestation in a stable soup of frequencies." Remember how the matrix of manifestation is ether, and how concentrated thought within that field manifests the frequency of the thought? This flow of energy on Earth carries these frequencies throughout the planet through rivers of constantly flowing energy, giving Earth a unique matrix signature frequency. "Indeed," said Altar, "and it is important to note that this is woven together with the activity of the human mind in its totality, and is called the morphogenic resonance of the planet." "Ah, wait," said Arnaud, his hands to his head. "Morphogenic resonance? What is that?" "Morphogenic resonance," continued Altar, posits that memory is inherent in nature and that natural systems inherit a collective memory from all previous things of their kind. It is also responsible for telepathy-type interconnections between organisms. I see, said Arnaud. So what you are saying is that the morphogenic resonance of the planet includes the collective human consciousness, or hive mind? Yes, that is correct, said Dulkar, and all collective memories are held in that collective consciousness. As already mentioned, said Sophia, bringing our attention back to the nodes, destructive frequencies can be amplified at these nodes on the planet, and these nodes can be turned into electromagnetic frequency amplifiers. Absolutely, said Maxim, and in specific areas on the planet there can be found destructive frequency emission points, or points that produce more antimatter, and this is where the Dark Ones focus their attention. Or rather, the Dark Ones have harnessed the antimatter at these points to use it for their own agenda. These points also hold the morphogenic resonance of the negativity that the Dark Ones have created. Ah, yes, agreed Irama. And these locations attract the people and events that are within its frequency range. Oh my! Exclaimed Minerva, and poured herself a cup of tea. So that would mean that these points, or locations on the planet, could be holding fear and terror, or a heightened sense of anxiety. And they would therefore, added Imra, be emanating frequencies that are biologically damaging, and these frequencies are radiated out to all of those who are living on or above the surface of those nodes. Ah, so these nodes can be used positively or negatively, depending upon the people who are working with that energy, said Arnaud. And once established, that node remembers and passes on the frequency that was harnessed there. You have it, said Maxim. If negative frequency nodes exist, then where are they most likely to be found? Inquired Asteria. You will not be surprised to know, said Sophia, when looking down the timeline of 21st century Earth, that some of these nodes can be found in the Ukraine, Yemen, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, and the Balkan and Crimea regions. Ah, yes, there certainly has been a lot of unrest in those areas, said Ankai. The Dark Ones use these high-energy sites for furthering their agendas. I also heard that the Dark Ones construct buildings or structures of high significance on top of the nodes, said Shamara. They build cathedrals and churches, as well as military installations and headquarters on those sites. Yes, I said, and in Earth's future, the Dark Ones have continued to build on top of those sites to maintain their controlling regime. In Earth's 21st century, they have built the Pentagon, the United Nations headquarters, the World Health Organization, and the Large Hadron Particle Accelerator in CERN, Switzerland. However, interjected Sophia, some of these powerful nodes have positive structures built on top of them, such as the 3 great pyramids in Egypt, Stonehenge and Avebury. Ah, so Stonehenge is a positive amplifier, said Arnaud. Yes, it is, laughed Sophia. There are many other stone circles and structures built on powerful nodes that are scattered around the surface of the earth. However, at Stonehenge and Avebury, these nodes have been utilized with positive intentions. Of course, something that we need to be aware of is that the lunar matrix also affects the nodes, cautioned Irama. The lunar matrix? Inquired Arnaud. Yes, continued Irama. When the lunar matrix was installed 10,500 years ago, from this present moment, many souls in human form became trapped, as did the Dark Ones, because of the lower dissonant lunar frequencies that were being emitted. As some of you already know, said Ankai, many of these humans were Lyrian descendants. They inhabited Atlantis and Lemuria when the Earth was 5th density, and some of them survived the Great Flood. Many of these memories are surfacing or are remembered by some of us here. Ah, yes, I remember, said Sharma Ra. The Atlantean Lyrians lost all of their technology and found themselves living in a more natural way, however, trapped on Earth. Fortunately, said Ariana, they retained their memories of who they are and created frequency star maps of the cosmos so that they could return to their former homes. Stonehenge was one of those observatories with a 360-degree visual amplitude of the earthly heavens. I heard that it took them hundreds of years to assemble star maps, said Naishara. However, eventually, through the high-energy portal of Stonehenge, they managed to remaster the technology that they had lost and generate the frequency of their destination. Ah, I see, said Cyndriella. So that is how they did it. Yes, said Sophia. As you know, to operate a portal or frequency generator, the frequency of the destination is replicated, and when both Stonehenge and their destination harmonized with one another, they could make their departure from 3rd density Earth. Oh, do you mean that Stonehenge, as a portal, could produce the exact frequency of their home? Said Arnaud. And once the frequency was perfected, or duplicated, they could be transported. Yes, that is what I am saying, said Sophia. A frequency generator uses the same technology as a starship when it travels from one destination to the other. Said Minerva. The story of the Atlantean Lyrians sounds similar to the early Egyptians. The early Egyptians also worked out that the lunar frequencies from the moon were trapping them, said Sophia. Again, because of the Great Flood, and with very little technology, they also managed to remaster the Great Pyramids and utilize them as portals. Of course, said Imra, the Dark Ones have taken all of the mechanics out of the pyramids, so in Earth's future, they are all dormant. In simplistic terms, said Sophia, Stonehenge is a positive energy node and through the ley lines, is directly connected into the electromagnetic energy matrix of the planet. Our journey is so that we can insert positive and uplifting frequencies into the Earth's energy grid and assist with raising the entire frequency of the Earth herself. "Oh, now I understand," exclaimed Arnaud. "And this would help to raise the dominant frequency of the collective human unconscious." "Of course, the Dark Ones are doing the same through the nodes that they influence, effectively terraforming Earth into low frequencies." "Yes," nodded Maxim, "and in 21st century Earth, this is achieved with the amplification of ionized radioactive low frequencies dispersed by nuclear power stations. These power stations are not supplying energy to the masses. The Dark Ones are taking energy from the power stations and feeding low frequencies into the Earth's electromagnetic energy grid." "So, are we going to feed higher frequency energies into the grid at Stonehenge to counter the agenda of the Dark Ones?" inquired Asteria. "Yes, that is correct," I said. "The Dark Ones are carrying out a global reset for humanity, which will plunge the Earth and humanity back into a Stone Age existence. And beyond that global reset, they have planned another global reset in 2,000 years' time in 21st century Earth." "Ah, right," said Arnaud. "And the year 2012 is when all the various timelines converge into a singular timeline." "Absolutely," said Sophia. "In the year 2012, a new paradigm can be made manifest, which will take humanity from that point forwards into a positive and spiritually uplifted timeline." "Are the Dark Ones aware of this?" asked Asteria. "Yes," I said. "They can also look along the most probable timelines and see the Harmonic Convergence in 2012. This event is extremely worrisome for them." A long silence, once again, descended upon the Light family while we all contemplated the importance of our journey to Stonehenge. "It will soon be dusk," announced Maxim, breaking our reverie, "and it is with some urgency that we need to find anchorage for the night." This Cornish coastline," said Dorkar Ra, "has very few safe anchorages and inlets to shelter from the Atlantic swell. Even the Roman maritime garrison avoid this coastline," said Imra. "We will continue in a northwest direction and head slightly back out, seawards, during the night," said Maxim. "We will then make landfall in a small but protected anchorage on the northern side of Lundy Island. This island is located approximately 10 miles off the Devonshire coastline. It is the next shire up from Cornwall." "Good idea," said Imra. "Lundy Island is a portal that the Druids have frequented for millennia, and because they are superstitious, the Roman garrisons seldom go there. They often talk of the paranormal activities that occur on Lundy Island." The next day, we were excited to be continuing on our journey. As we set sail, a light mist descended upon us, reducing our visibility to approximately 3 miles. It was mid-morning when Dulkar announced that he could see something looming on the visible horizon of the starboard bow. "I can see the cliffs of Lundy Island," he shouted. "Well done," congratulated Maxim. "We will sail to the northern side of Lundy Island, where there is a sheltered deep-water anchorage. Any Roman ships will have taken the route between the Devonshire coast and Lundy Island, staying closer to the mainland. I have heard that there is a large Roman fortress at the entrance to the Avon River at Avonmouth," said Imra. "This will make it impossible to venture the 14 miles upstream to the ancient city of Bath. Bath is a city of rest and recreation for the generals and the higher-ranking Roman personnel." "Yes, if we take that route to Stonehenge, there would be many questions to answer," said Maxim. "We are fortunate to have the mist descend upon us so that we can be discreet," said Dulkar. As dusk fell upon us, we anchored at Lundy Island. "I heard that Lundy Island is a portal, or node, of strong energies," said Cyndriella. "Indeed," said Ankai. "It is a natural portal that opens and closes cyclically and connects with other portals and timelines, especially Lemuria." "Do you mean what I think you mean?" exclaimed Shamara. "Are we waiting for the portal to open and the arrival of one of our Light family members?" "Yes," laughed Maxim. "Morgan Le Fay is aware that we are here and will soon be joining us." "Who is Morgan Le Fay?" asked Minerva. "Oh, she is one of the Druids," laughed Sophia. "The Dark Ones have written atrocities about her. However, none of them are true." "Well, when will she be arriving?" asked Cyndriella. "When the frequencies of this portal and the Lemurian portal are in harmony, the portal will open and she will arrive," said Irama. "In the meantime, we can relax and wait." That evening, after a hearty meal, as Orkatu gently motioned in the calm and protected anchorage of Lundy Island, we all fell into a deep sleep. Somewhere in the darkness of the early morning, an unusual crackling sound rippled through the water. It passed into Orkatu's hull and woke us all up. "Did everyone hear that?" asked Irama. "Yes," we all said in unison. "I saw a flash of blue light in my mind's eye before I felt the crackling vibration," said Cyndriella. "So did I," laughed Sophia. "Well, seeing as we are all up, we may as well prepare an early breakfast," said Ankai. As the sun began to peep over the horizon, Shamara rushed to the side of the boat and pointed towards the beach. "There is someone standing on the beach, off the port bow," she exclaimed. "Perhaps it is a curious local who spotted us last evening as we made anchor." "Oh, she is here!" exclaimed Sophia. It is Morgane Le Fay. Maxim lowered Orca2's tender into the water, and accompanied by Sophia and Cyndriella, they rowed towards the beach. We all watched with excitement as Maxim embraced the silhouette, lifting her into the air and moving in circles as he hugged her tightly. Sophia and Cyndriella joined in the hugs, and at the same time, they jumped up and down for joy. Eventually, Sophia, Cyndriella, and Morgane Le Fay climbed into the tender, and after pushing the boat out into the water, Maxim jumped on board and rowed back to Orca2. We all welcomed Morgane Le Fay, and after introducing ourselves, we invited her to join us for refreshments. Morgane had long, jet black hair, sapphire blue eyes, and was wearing a long, deep red velvet dress. "Oh, thank you," she said. "I have just arrived from Avalon." Do you mean Avalon on the mainland, in England?" asked Arnaud. "I mean Avalon in the Vega star system," replied Morgane. "Please, understand that we are all Lyrian-based. We came from the planets Lyra and Avalon in the Vega star system. All humanoids in this quadrant of the galaxy came from the Lyrians." "Well, why did the Lyrian races move away from their home planets?" asked Arnaud. "Approximately 1 million years ago," continued Morgane, "a strong reptilian force invaded the Vega area, and in particular, the planets Avalon and Lyra. Fortunately, many of our ancestors escaped to the Pleiadian star systems, and some of them came here, to Earth." "This was the Great Lyrian Expansion," said Ankai. "Why didn't they defend themselves?" asked Minerva. "Even although there were approximately 400,000 humanoid races in the Vega system," said Morgane, "they lived in relative peace. They did not have weapons and did not know how to defend themselves. This was the start of the Orion Wars that played out for the next 1 million years and is still occurring in Earth's 21st century," said Ankai. "I thought that the Pleiadians had evolved past conflict and warring," said Asteria. "Well, in part," replied Morgane. "Approximately 850,000 years ago, most of the Pleiadian races became what they are today, including the Taygetans from the Taygetan star system, the Ingan from the Electra star system, and the Umar, the dominant female race or cat people, who are also from Lyra and Avalon in the Vega star system. In the legends of King Arthur and Merlin," said Shama Ra, "there are also mentioned, many times, the dragons. So who or what are the dragons?" "They are the Alpha Dracos," said Morgane with a smile. "They also come from Lyra and Avalon." "Oh, aren't they the invading Reptilians who started the Orion Wars?" inquired Cyndriella. "There are very few Alpha Dracos that have rejected their connection with Source," advised Morgane. Most reptilian alpha Dracos have evolved spiritually and exist as loving and compassionate beings. They live in harmony with other positive races in this quadrant of the galaxy. Well, it says in the legends that they breathe fire, exclaimed Asteria. Morgan laughed. That is amusing. Actually, the Alpha Dracos have an internal metabolism that creates magnesium gas, and when combined with oxygen, it instantly combusts, causing flames. Oh, how exciting! Blurted Shamara. Avalon is a watery planet, similar to Earth, continued Morgan, and many of the races there are aquatic. Is that why in the King Arthur and Merlin legends, Morgan is spoken of as the Lady of the Lake? Asked Asteria, her eyebrows raised and a grin on her face. Yes, stated Morgan emphatically, although legends can be colourful and amusing at times. Of course, you will be travelling with us to Stonehenge, won't you? Inquired Cyndriella. Absolutely! Exclaimed Morgan. This is an important gathering. There are many starseeds from all over the galaxy and beyond who are journeying to Stonehenge for this event. All right, interjected Maxim, rubbing his hands together. Here is the plan. We will leave Lundy Island on the afternoon rising tide and make the 30-mile crossing north to the mainland, he said. As it is too dangerous to sail up the Avon River, we will sail Orcatu to the Sedge. We will not, however, enter the Sedge through the mouth of the Avon River and Dunster Castle. This ancient waterway was used by small sailing ships. However, Orcatu is too large to enter the Sedge this way. Instead, we will sail further north and enter the Sedge via an ancient sluice gate. It is a short way up the Parrot River. Are these the sluice gates that were built by the ancient Celts? Asked Imra. Yes, said Maxim, and they hold 200 square miles of fresh water. At high tide, said Dulkar-Ra, the gate can be opened, allowing a boat to enter or exit into the Sedgemoor. Ah, so the Sedge is the historic inland sea? Inquired Arnaud. Yes, it is a freshwater lake, explained Maxim, and at the northern end is the ancient town of Glastonbury. On the edge of the lake is the city of Wells. It is here that we will leave Orcatu and join a pilgrimage. We will travel on foot along the ridgeway to Avebury and then walk on to Stonehenge. The passage to the Parrot River went smoothly, and aided by the rising tide current, we arrived at the sluice gates 1 hour before high tide. Ah, good. The lake level and ocean level must be of equal height, said Maxim. We pulled on the mooring lines, and with little effort, Dulkar-Ra, Arnaud and Altar pulled the sluice gate open. Maxim navigated Orcatu through the gates, and the men closed the sluice gate behind us, making sure that the locking pins were firmly in place. This would prevent any accidental tidal surges from opening the sluice gates. And now, Orca 2 was once again in fresh water. "Oh, it has been months since our last freshwater passage," I said. "Yes, that was down the Nile River," said Naishara. As dusk fell over the lake, Maxim suggested that we pull Orca 2 a few hundred feet along the banks of the sluice gate cuttings to be out of sight of any boats that were making their passage up the Parrot River. Eventually, we reached our destination on the Sedge and all settled down for light refreshments. As we ate in silence, we all stared at our new surroundings, ready for another adventure. And then, looking at one another in the eyes, we all laughed. And so, my journey continues.